Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you to GMAT Club for hosting. I'm here today to talk to you about a very important but sometimes overlooked topic in the MBA application journey, and that is networking. I have some slides to go through first, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A. Before we kick off, I just wanted to say thank you to GMAT Club for this forum and for hosting, and wanted to mention that, if you could please hit subscribe, you'll be notified of more sessions like these. It will also entitle you to a 7-day subscription to the GMAT Club tests, which is a fantastic resource as you guys are preparing to take the GMAT or take it again, or wherever you are in that process. The activation for that is instant. Just look for a link in the comments. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see the slides that I'm going to go through. So give me a sec there. All right. Just take one more minute to pop up there. There we go. All right. So again, our topic today is how to start application networking. First, by way of introduction, my name is Katie McQuarrie. I attended Kellogg for my MBA. I also have served as an alumni interviewer for Kellogg, so love staying in touch with the Kellogg community. And then, of course, is my work with the broader MBA community. So I am a senior consultant with Vantage Point. We are your advisors, your mentors, your coaches throughout the entire MBA application process, from school selection to resume preparation to interview prep, into essays and everything. So we're really, a great mentor, I think, throughout the process, and that's what our clients say as well. We pride ourselves on being a high-touch, personalized firm, really with the client at the center of everything. We take on a limited number of clients. That you have our full undivided attention throughout the process and when you need us. I think another great thing about Vantage Point is that we are a great collaborative team. So we have people from many of the top MBA programs who graduated from those who are now our consultants. We also have a number of former admissions committee members from those top schools on our team that we really, share information and leverage each other for insights. Although you obviously do have your sort of dedicated consultant to quarterback the process with you. And, as a result of that, our process and our people, we've had some great results for clients. Our clients get into the top MBA programs at 3 times the average rate. So, we're really proud of that statistic. And, for me personally, it's incredibly fulfilling to work with clients and then, see a happy result at the end of the day. Because I know, what a pivotal experience business school was for me. And I really enjoy getting others on that same path. So enough about me. Let's jump into today's topic. So just to overview where we're going to go, meet your host. We just did that. Next, we're going to talk about why networking matters and exactly what that is. Then we'll go through some what not to do tips, which I think are very important to a successful outcome with your networking process. We'll talk about how to plan your networking approach, when to start, who to reach out to, what to ask, those types of things. And then, talk about some places to help you get started finding contacts and people to network with if they're not, in your personal network already, which, is the case with many people and can be intimidating. And then lastly, we've put together a great free download for you guys. It's a worksheet that helps you lay out your plan and sort of a framework for approaching your networking journey. So we hope that you find that useful. And then again, at the end, happy to take some Q&A here. All right, so jumping in. Why networking matters. So first of all, what is networking? Before I kind of, progressed, I guess, in my career and went to business school and all that, networking was super scary for me. I'm a reserved person by nature, and the thought of, reaching out and having these conversations with people, was really intimidating. But over time, I've learned that it's actually pretty interesting. It's great to learn about someone's background, where they've been, where they plan to go, and, sort of what advice they have for following in their footsteps or, not. So it can be very interesting and oftentimes fun. And I think that's the approach you really have to take. Networking is just, forming genuine connections with people, wanting to learn about them, sharing your background. And then sometimes there's, an intersection there where you can be useful to one another. Sometimes not. And then you just have to look at it as another data point to leverage, perhaps in the future. So as it relates to business school, what we're really talking about when we say networking, there's campus visits where, you're going to go on campus. Sometimes you can sit in on a class, you can meet with current students, perhaps have lunch with them, and really just take in, what the school has to offer, maybe, chat briefly with professors or members of the admissions committee, tour campus. So that's, a big piece of the networking that, we're referring to when we are thinking about application networking. Another piece is just those, phone calls and coffee chats, reaching out to people and say, hey, like, I see that you went to XYZ school, or that you have your MBA and you're in a, similar career to, what I aspire to do. Do you have 30 minutes, 15 minutes just to chat with me? So that's really what we're talking about. And networking matters, for these 4 reasons here. First is discovery. So when it comes to, starting the business school process, deciding to even get your MBA, trying to figure out, does it make sense for me? And learning about a particular school, you can really only learn so much from a school's website. The best place to learn about these things is by talking to someone. So really, you have to do your legwork and just, have these conversations. So really, networking is key for discovery. Also for advice, getting an MBA is a huge investment. Not only are you, paying the cost to attend school, you're walking away from, oftentimes a stable job, salary, moving, across the country to a different country. It's a huge step. And you really need and want to maximize the return on, that investment. And getting advice from those who've gone before you is the best way to, ensure that you're thinking about all that entails. So advice, leverage your network for advice. Third is support. So, with all of that change and with this big investment, it's scary to make this decision. Lean on those people in your network, for support. How did you, get through, picking up and leaving your job? What was that like? And this is a huge part of the MBA kind of culture. I know, especially, in my own personal journey, I love helping people, before I even did this as a career, that were contemplating this decision. And it's ingrained in the culture. We want to give back and help people, pay it forward. So, MBAs love to do that and leverage that. And then, most importantly, the stage you're at in your journey, and really, frankly, to help you get accepted, networking is critical. Schools want to ensure that you've really done your homework. Do you know what their particular program is all about? Do you have a genuine interest in it beyond what you can read on the website? And do you have a clear sense of where you're going in your career and why an MBA and why their particular school will fit in? You need to have all of these things really crystal clear in your head so that you can lay them out in your essays, in your admissions interviews. That's a prerequisite. You're not going to get into a program if you don't have these things, clearly defined up front of undertaking the actual application process. Networking is the best way to really hone these ideas and, get yourself in a place that's going to set you up for success. And then a note about timing here on the bottom. Network early. Now is the time to get started. So if you think about where we are, sitting here in February, this is kind of the calm before the storm. Maybe you're preparing for the GMAT, which is great. But if you think down the road, you're going to be perhaps preparing to take the GMAT again. I hope that's not the case, but it might be. You're going to be writing your application essays. You're going to be doing your resume, all of that. You are going to be so busy. People always underestimate the time crunch that's going to arise no matter how much planning you do. I mean, you can't start now. Schools haven't even released their essay prompts for the next year. So you have some time now. Start making these connections, having these informal conversations. Sometimes it can take a little bit to get connected with someone or to get on their calendar. You really, you are not starting too early. Right now is the sweet spot. Another point in that vein is that campus visits are best done when school is in session. That's, the way that you can actually sit in on a class. Students are engaged. You can see how they're interacting with each other. And if you think about the school calendar, you have about 2 months until they're off on break and they're doing their internships. No one's on campus. So really now is the time that you want to schedule those visits if you can. People oftentimes, clients will come to me in September saying, oh, should I go visit campus? If you're applying round one, you really don't have that much time, and those visit slots fill up very quickly. You want to get on campus before you finalize your essays, before you submit your application. So now truly, is the time. Okay, just want to make sure I'm covering all the points I wanted to make. Oh, one thing, I'm talking a lot about campus visits. If you can't get to campus, if you're located, on the other side of the globe from the schools you're contemplating, attending, that's okay. A lot of people stress about that. Do what you can. It's great for your own edification and for the quality of your applications, of course, if you can visit. But if you can't, there are other great ways to network and to really understand a program. There are virtual admissions events. You can just network with people in your location, have calls, Skype, all of that. A lot of times schools will come to major cities around the world, so you can meet them there. So just don't stress too much. Just do what you can with the resources that you have. So yeah, wanted to make that point to relay any fears on that front. Okay, so moving on to what not to do. A lot of these are self-explanatory, but I think that it is important to just touch on them. So the first one is not thinking you need to network. You do. Trust me. You need to understand what these programs are all about. You need to understand, what career path you want to, follow after business school. You need to understand, is that reasonable? Is that position I'm targeting reasonable out of business school? Do they come to campus to recruit? And not to mention networking now, especially if it's someone in your desired career path, could set you up for internship recruiting success. I mean, there are so many benefits. There's really no downside. It's only going to help you. The second one is being too last minute. Back to my point about timing. Start now. People are not going to respond favorably and give you, the time that you hope they will if it's last minute and you try to jam them. So really start now, be respectful of their time and respectful of how long it might take, to find a time that works for both of you. Third point, don't ask the obvious questions. You may only, get someone for 15 minutes. Think about the questions you really need the answers to that you cannot find on the website. Do all of your basic research up front and then figure out what you really need to know that you cannot find elsewhere and save those questions for your networking calls and for your face-to-face, points of contact. And again, similar to that point, don't expect that people are going to answer 50 questions for you. That's why you need to, really whittle them down to what, you really think will help you on your journey to understand the schools better, to understand your desired career path better. I wouldn't, obviously have a list ready, but you really have to gauge someone's cues as to, how much time they have. Are they appearing disinterested? If they are, move on and just find someone else to follow up with. I would target, about 3 to 5 really solid questions for your interviewer or for the person that you're networking with. That's a really solid number. And of course, have backups, but, don't expect them to answer 50 things for you. At the baseline of it, be humble, be thoughtful, be respectful. Those sort of cover all of these points here. All right, so planning your networking strategy. So how do you go about getting started? I think it makes the most sense and can sort of help clarify things if you think about your networking in 3 distinct buckets: career goals, why MBA, and then specific school research. So career goals, one of the things you're absolutely going to have to spell out in your essays and your applications and your interviews, really everywhere with every school, every touch point is kind of your elevator pitch. So, where your career has taken you thus far, the skills you've gained, what you want to do in the future, and how an MBA will get you there. And then more specifically, how the specific school you're applying to will get you there. But, the first piece is to figure out where you're going. What are your desired short-term and long-term positions that you hope to attain out of business school? You need to do your homework on this industry to see, do they even care about an MBA? Is that something they value? Do they hire on business school campuses? Is the position that you think you can get something that they recruit MBAs for directly? Do they have to grow into them? You want to present to the admissions committee a cohesive plan and a realistic plan. And more importantly, you really have to have a why behind it. So you have to understand that industry that you are planning to go into after business school. Why is it appealing to you? Why is it more appealing than, the trajectory that you're currently on? How does it fit with your personal values? How does it leverage the experience you've gained thus far in your career? So, networking for this purpose, will really help you define your career goals. So that's the first bucket. The second bucket is why MBA. So again, as I said before, getting an MBA is a huge investment. You want to make sure that it's really going to set you up for success in your career. So you want to confirm and build the reasons for pursuing an MBA by talking to people that have been there. what skills did they get from business school that they leverage in their career all the time? Are those skills you have already or skills that you need to build? Asking people with MBAs of, what skills they built in business school, how they evolved as a person, and other benefits they got out of it. How do they leverage their business school network? This will all help you, confirm your decision to apply. And then also in your interview, in your essays, make the case to the business school that you're applying to that, the degree is really the linchpin to your success in getting you from where you are today to where you want to go. So school agnostic, figuring out, what the degree will give you is critical. And then the third bucket is specific school research. So programs are really different. Some are 200 people per class, some are 900. Some use, a few, HBS and Darden use the case method for teaching. That's really unique. And that, you have to know whether you learn best in that environment, or not. The cultures are super different. Some are located in big cities. Some are located in small towns that are remote. How is that going to impact recruiting? These are all things that you really need to dig into to understand if a particular program is somewhere that you want to be and want to apply. And then, you'll see that question everywhere on the application, in your essays, you'll be asked it in interviews. You really need to make a strong case for why a particular school is the right fit for you. And it can't just be, generic. I always tell my clients when, they're asked why Kellogg or, why whatever program they're applying to, if their answer could apply to, any other school, then it's not specific enough. You have to figure out what classes are the best to take, what professors are there that you're interested in, all of these things. And it's very hard to do that on the internet and just by reading. So the third bucket is school research. So thinking of these three buckets, so those are the different categories of information you're looking to obtain. The framework we recommend for doing this is, start with your existing network. Who do you know from your company that you work at or that you have worked at in the past? Your, undergrad friends, your undergrad, peers, your family, friends, anyone who has an MBA or is somehow connected to an MBA program. Make a list of those people and then think about which of these buckets they can best advise you on. And when you chat with them, tailor your questions to that, particular bucket that they're going to be helpful for. You want ideally 3 people minimum for each of these buckets to get a robust sense of the landscape. Personal experiences are great, but they're limited to that person's experience. So by diversifying the points of view that you get, you really will get a well-rounded, holistic picture of the answers you're seeking. So, for each of these buckets, try to identify 3 people in your existing network that might be able to opine. Set up coffee chats with them or a phone call or get together or buy a drink, something that makes sense for that particular relationship, and chat with them and see what information you get. Once you lay that out, figure out what you're missing. So maybe you people who have gotten their MBA, but you don't know anyone who went to HBS. You don't know anyone who went to Booth. So you then can narrow it down to, I know I want to apply. I think I want to apply, I guess, to these particular schools. I don't know anyone, at those schools. So figure out where your gaps are and then, move to trying to fill those gaps. And don't be afraid if that's the case. A lot of people, are approaching this, myself included, who didn't know a lot of people who had done their MBA, done the MBA at a top program or, pursued the career that I was interested in after. And And that's okay. That's great, that you're open and you're thinking, and there are plenty of resources to help you make those connections. So moving on to that, what are those additional resources? And I'm going to, kind of speed through these because there are so many different places, but I would say, first of all, this is super easy. Look at LinkedIn. Google or search in LinkedIn for your target long-term position. What has that person done in their career to date? Did they go to business school? What do they do afterwards? Just snoop a little bit. Honestly, you can find a lot out there. Look at alums of your target schools. Where did they go? Alums in your target schools in sort of your target industry. Do a little snooping. It never hurt. People don't mind. Secondly, and this one is also super easy, school ambassadors. Schools want you to come get to know them. They'll always, or I would say, I have never heard of a school not offering this, but ambassadors, time with current students to talk about their experience. Sometimes they'll give you a name of someone to set up a chat with. Sometimes they'll refer to you, you do a virtual Q&A or admissions events. I mean, these are the exact purpose of these type of events. They want to get the information about their program. They want to help you make connections. So talk to the schools, go directly to them. They are there to help you. And then MBA forums, you're there. You're using GMAT Club, which is great. It's a fantastic resource to, get your targeted questions answered, to, this huge network of people that, are in your shoes or have been in your shoes. You have access to, admissions consultants to sort of probe them with questions for free. So GMAT Club, some of these other MBA forums and resources can definitely be helpful. Fourth on the list, targeted resources. So some of these, depending on your background, Forte Foundation is for women, MLT, the consortium, Ramba, these are all great targeted resources that if they apply to you, can be helpful. Third-party networking events, the Poets and Quants, Pre-MBA Networking Festival, all, etc. There's tons of these things. So, seek them out, be open, be engaged, be curious, and, you never know what connections you'll make. And then lastly, there obviously are admissions consulting firms like Vantage Point, which, can provide you with one-on-one mentoring. So this is certainly something to consider. Speaking specifically to Vantage Point, our comprehensive packages include one career chat with someone that we know in our network, and it's pretty vast, so we have a lot of breadth there. A career chat with someone who is in your targeted post MBA industry, so we'll set that up for you, or a chat with a grad of a school that your top choice school. So you can leverage your admissions consultant with Vantage Point for something like that. So those are some additional resources. And then bringing that all together, so this is the free worksheet that I mentioned earlier. So this is available for download. You can see the address right there on the screen. Also, I believe it's linked on the YouTube video. So find this. This just helps you kind of framework out your networking approach, hold yourself accountable, and really just get started. Really helps you organize your thoughts. So leverage it. I hope you find it helpful. So that's all I have prepared. Again, so fortunate to be here today to talk to you. I hope you found the information helpful. Here is my contact information. Vantage Point does do free 30-minute consultations. So if you want to, reach out to schedule that, please feel free. There is a request initial consultation on our website. You can also email me with any questions or for that service. So I'm going to X out of my presentation and we can jump to some Q&A here. All right, first question. Hi, Priya. Thank you for your question. So, how do we network when the position that we want to be in post MBA has no named designated post? Okay, so that's a great question. I see what you're trying to say. So you don't really know what the name of the position would be, so it's sort of hard to find resources or um, do your search in a targeted way. So I would say, so I actually did finance and strategy coming out of business school. So I can speak to these specifically, but typically, if you're going into a corporate finance or a corporate strategy related role, you would go in at the senior financial analyst or senior analyst or associate manager level. So I would, for those particular roles, I would, search for those titles. And then again, it's, look at target companies, start with the companies you might think you would want to work for. And then perhaps, also, like if you're looking on LinkedIn, look at those companies, look at people within the finance or strategy function, look for people with MBAs, and you can generally, determine kind of what the path is and what's realistic there. Even if you don't know what that particular role is, find someone at that company that has an MBA, even if they're much more senior or they have progressed in their career, even if they're more junior. Honestly, you can ask them like, hey, do you interact with MBAs on a day-to-day basis? How does your firm recruit for them? Do you know? Can you connect me with someone? So start with companies that I think would be in your industry, and then hone in from there. All right, let's see. All right, second question. Can you elaborate on how we can research and network more about schools besides the internet as an international student? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's even more important. I mean, if you're an international student, you're moving halfway across the world, you want to make sure you really get a sense for what that school that you're attending is all about. So, you know, it, presumably these schools have alums in your home country. I would try to connect with anyone maybe you can look within your company, if anyone who's gone to your target schools and come back and worked there. I would look locally, honestly, and then I would look for events. I know many of the business schools come to Mumbai. They go to some of the other major cities in Asia and Europe. So contact the schools, look at their websites, see when they're going to be doing their rounds, doing presentations, and then also a lot of them do these virtual admissions events. So look at the virtual events, ask questions, see what they have to say. They do really present more than you can just read on the internet. So I would target those virtual presentations. And then again, also anyone that you can find, locally that's an alum or, to one of my additional resources points too, you can also contact the school if you don't have anyone in your personal network to, oftentimes they can connect you with someone local to chat with, or set you up with a current student from your home country even. So leverage the school, leverage, your personal network, and then, look for these events where you can learn more either virtually or in person. It's a great question. So can you throw some light on the networking process for internships while in business school? And I heard it starts as early as you enter. So yeah, this is correct. I think people are often very surprised. They think they're going to get to business school and have, the first 6 months to figure out, ooh, what do I like? Where do I want to, recruit for internships? That's not the case. So especially for very competitive industries like consulting, like banking, you kind of have to go in knowing what you want to do, because starting within a couple weeks, and some schools try to keep the recruiting out so that first years can get settled. Doesn't often work, honestly, in practice. But as soon as you're on campus, you're going to be going to these company presentations. You're going to be having coffee chats with recruiters from your target firms. You need to have a network in place to kind of hit the ground running for that, ideally. The schools make it easy, especially if you're going into something that recruits on campus. But building these connections in advance can really help you when it comes to recruiting for internships. So I would say, just in terms of timing, you sort of start the internship recruiting process, within a month or two of getting on campus. And then everybody kind of has their internships locked up for the most part by January or maybe February. So it is very, very quick. And so then on the networking process so I want to make sure I'm fully answering the question here. All of this stuff I described, talking to people in your industry, post business school, prior to even applying, can set you up for success. And then, once you get there, these companies come to campus. I think once you're there, in recruiting for internships becomes a lot easier because, the resources are sort of handed to you a little bit more. But, again, as you're researching schools, you want to make sure that the companies you're targeting come to your campus. That's not often the case, or it depends on the school, the tier of the school, the type of company you're looking to go to. So I guess I'm referring in my answer to things that, recruit on campus. Also a great question. How honest can we be with the students? So essentially, are these networking conversations evaluative is the question. And I get this a ton from clients, and it's a great one. So the short answer is you can be honest with them. They're not evaluative per se. I would say if you made a very strong impression on them, either positively or negatively, there might be a scenario in which they would shoot a note to admissions and, it might be placed in your file, but you would have to do something really egregious to anger them, or that was just really out of the norm to trigger that, in my opinion. And no one wants, students, networking conversations, and I've had a lot of them, aren't interesting if you just get the token questions that someone can research online. So you really do need to drill into what you truly want to know. So yeah, be honest. Obviously be respectful, be humble, but be honest and leverage the time, because you're making a huge decision. Again, make sure that it's one that makes sense for you. And people love talking about themselves. So, asking about their personal experience, what they like about their program, what they don't like about the program, it's all fair game. I wonder if we have any more questions here. Okay. Any tips on dressing etiquette? Well, it really, it truly depends on the situation. I would say you always want to err on the side of more formal. I would say for any school presentations, campus visits, things of that nature, just go with business casual. Admissions interviews, I would err on the side of a suit, but I think just for visiting campus, and other admissions events, business casual is perfect. So slacks and a button down, maybe a blazer if that's, within your style, but, I would err away from jeans. You want to show that you're taking this very seriously and that you respect the process, respect the person's time. One-on-one meetings, that's a tough one because it just really depends. Is the person a peer? Are they very senior? If they're very senior, I would always go business casual, maybe, something even more formal. Also, depending on, kind of where you're meeting, you can, you can, to a certain extent, it's just situational. But again, always err on the side of more formal versus less. So networking with recruiters is different than networking with students or employees. So what do we start by saying? So if I'm interpreting the question correctly, you're asking, what do we start? Okay, networking with. I see. Okay, this is helpful. Thanks for the clarification. So you want to, over time, as you've kind of refined your story, you kind of want to have an elevator pitch for recruiters, whether it's recruiters from business schools or for internships and things down the road. But I'll focus on, since that's sort of the topic here, but I'll focus on admissions committee people that you might be interacting with as you're sort of networking for business school. So you want to have your elevator pitch, and that entails, I would say, a 30-second to maybe a minute pitch of, hi, I'm Katie. My background, I've spent the last number of years doing X. I really love this part of it, but in the future, I'd love to do Y and Z. So sort of what you're doing now, what you hope to do in the future, and why. And then, and I'm really excited to apply to business school now. I think an MBA will provide me with these skills to help me make that transition. So basically what experience you bring to the table now, what you hope to do in the future, and then what business school will provide to help you bridge that gap. So that should be your 30 to 60-second elevator pitch. So if you're, a lot of times these admissions events, so they'll give a little presentation, there'll be some open networking, or you can kind of go up and talk to the presenter after. I would open like, hi, I'm Priya, this is who I am, and then have a good question to ask them. So this is who I am, I was hoping you could shed some light on, and then ask a great question and then see where it goes. I think that's the perfect opening for someone, that's not kind of a current student or employee at a firm you're looking for to work for. Campus visits without interviews. It's a good question. You could probably go jeans. I mean, the students are going to be wearing jeans unless they're interviewing or, going to a company presentation later in the day, in which case they might be more dressed up. I still think business casual is what I would be most comfortable recommending. I know that's what I did when I visited campuses as a student at Kellogg. That's what I typically saw people wearing. And again, it can't hurt to just be like a little more formal than just sort of your basic jeans. If you do go with jeans, you just make it obviously clean and not tidy and sort of polished looking, I guess is more the term I'm looking for. But yeah, I'd still say business casual. Sorry, I know that's a pain. For veteran applicants, do you recommend that we connect with the AddCom or the Vets Club? This is a great question. I have a big military family, so I know about this. My sister-in-law, who's a vet, went to Kellogg, so I was very closely tied to her experience in helping her with her application. It's a great question. It's a specialized background and a great one, obviously. Thank you for your service. I would connect with both the AddCom and the Vets Club. So the AddCom, schools love vets. I think the leadership, and the experience that you bring to the table is very unique and fits really well in a business school program. You want to, you always want to connect with the AddCom. Let them know you're out there. Let them know you're interested. And so, yeah, can't hurt. And then the Vets Club is huge. They love, shepherding people through the process. In my experience, sometimes it's hard to translate military experience to something that would be, understandable to someone with more of a corporate background. So, the Veterans Club can help you bridge that gap. They can, I think very importantly, talk to you on an experience level about which companies really value hiring veterans, how that experience translates, what your recruiting process is going to be like, what the transition, just like emotionally and socially and everything is going to be like. So I would connect certainly with both. I think you're going to find some great resources out there, and hopefully, and speaking a little self-servingly here, but admissions consultants can also help you, translate that experience, or have some trusted family and friends, read your essays and, help you through that process as well. If asked what other schools you are looking at and have applied to, what's the best approach? So yeah, I'm getting this question a lot lately from clients, whether they actually get asked it or they're just nervous they're going to. It's certainly coming up, and it is on some applications where they ask. So certainly honesty is the best approach. Don't lie and say you're not applying anywhere else, because they probably would think that was sort of a silly method to approach business school applications. So we question your logic. But, what I tell my clients to do is to name 3-ish other schools, or 2 or 3 other schools that are in the same kind of ballpark tier as the school you're talking to. So, say you're applying to Kellogg, talk about 3 schools that you sort of view in that same vein, and say, and then in that realm, say, I really love about Kellogg that it has this collaborative student culture, and find something similar about the other schools you're applying to so that you can kind of compare it. I'm also applying to Ross because I find, a similar vein there, and also applying to, whatever other program that might be. Just find a commonality, name, a couple of schools. You don't have to name all of them. And then say, quickly jump to, but what I really love about Kellogg. So it's sort of a politician move, in a way. So you want to name a couple of schools, but then quickly jump back to why that particular school that you're talking to is a great fit for you. So again, be honest, maybe edit a little bit. If you're applying to 7 schools, you don't have to name 7 schools, but name a few that are true, and say quickly then, why you really like the school that you're talking to. All right, well, I'm guessing we may have reached the end of our questions here. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And, I hope that you found it helpful. Thank you again to GMAT Club for hosting. If you liked it, the session, please hit like on it. If you didn't, you can hit dislike. That's okay. I enjoyed it. And, I think you guys can see the link there. We do have a pre-pack service that, can kind of help get you started if you are interested in admissions consulting. Again, we do these 30-minute free consultations. That's there for you. Please feel free to, download the worksheet for approaching your networking journey. All right. Well, thank you very much.